Is there such a thing as a proof that past lives existed? Is it possible to do research on past lives, given that is a subjective experience? We are going to discuss about this today. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. I am Nancy Trevelato. And among the most believed myths of this area of the study of the extraordinary experiences is the fact that it's not possible to research past life recall. Most of the evidences we have, or better saying, of the cases that we hear about, are simply cases of people who have had some sort of subjective experience and they tell someone. And the experiences usually are very strong for those who have it. Having said that, I must make a parenthesis and say that many people, they confuse in their minds some expectations, maybe some impulses, memories of this life that come, and they just assume it's past lives. So we need to know how to distinguish what's the real past life recall and what could be some different type of phenomena that we would be experiencing. But that is a discussion for another moment. We have research about that in the International Academy of Consciousness. We have a book published that is called Retrocognition, retro past, cognition to know of. So retrocognition, but it's sold out at the moment. But our research is mostly focused on explaining the mechanism by which it's possible to have a past life recall. And that's very interesting because several individuals report having those. There are a number of books written about this experience, some quite interesting, like, for example, the first book that came out of Brian Weiss that discussed about a spontaneous experience of someone who was undertaking a treatment, a hypnosis therapy, and the book's called Many Lives, Many Masters. But the point is, that was a bit of a shock when it came out because it was daring to talk about something that usually is not so well taken, to discuss about these ideas that we could have had a past lives. I understand when people are a bit skeptical and they frown upon when they hear about it, because there are exaggerations. There are many times affirmations without enough evidence, without enough study. And in this area, we have always to be cautious. We'd better assume we have not had an experience if we are in doubt than jumping into conclusions that are not well substantiated. But having said that, we need to be able to look at the substantiated evidences. We need to find mechanisms to study such experiences. So, in spite of the fact that the subjective experiences are so hard for us to investigate, which is the case, for example, of the out-of-body experience or astral projection that we study a lot at the IAC. And why do we study it? Because it's important experience or phenomena to allow us to understand our nature. If indeed we are able to manifest outside of this body, this means our nature is not purely physical. We are something beyond the brain. And the element of research that the out-of-body experience offers to us, it's super important. That's why we pay attention to it. But also based on experiences such as this, the astral projection, out-of-body experience, we can also infer that, well, if I don't die when I am out of my body, then possibly I don't die with the biological death. So possibly I have had other lives. And then we start putting together the different models explaining how we are here and who we are, beyond the physical body, and how we came to have the characteristics that we have, to be the person that we are. And the model that we apply at the IEC is that we, as consciousnesses, as the intelligent individual essence, we inhabit vehicles of manifestation, and this physical body is one of them. This is not just an information taken out of the hat or without evidence. This is based on lots of study from ourselves, but also studies done by others, researchers, all throughout history. Past few decades, we have had many interesting cases and lots of reports. But the point here is the evidence of past life. While many people believe it's not possible to study and there is no research that would confirm that, and once they hear about past lives, they immediately assume, yeah, no, that is whatever, people just believe, it's just wishful thinking that we would have other lives. But there are some interesting studies, and I would want to share with you some of them. There is a gentleman, he is no longer among us here, he has passed, but his name was Stevenson. Stevenson was a medical doctor with the University of Virginia. And while he was a doctor, he was a pediatrician and very much dedicated also to studying psychiatry in pediatrics, so among children. And he noticed that there were some children that he would visit there at the hospital in his routine visits every day, and the children would tell him about a existence or about an experience or about a house they had, how they died, family they had, but those were not the real family in the present moment that the child was reporting that. Okay, children's fantasy, right? No problem. So he at first dismissed, but it was a bit eye-catching to him. Why? The children, or how they would have so many details. They would know so well how to describe that. But it started intriguing him when children would, for example, talk about a place that they didn't know, geographically speaking, but they would give details that would match what was indeed the condition of that place, country, or city, depending on the case. So the child had no way of knowing that. In addition, following visit, the child would just continue or repeat with very accurate details, same thing, same attitude, same vision of that specific context they were talking about. And this is not so normal for children. Usually some details are enriched, some are left behind, and we can see some inconsistencies because it's natural, it's part of the creativity, it's the mind growing, it's the fantasy that has the good side in the development of a child. Nonetheless, when he started observing that, and from the point of view that he was examining those children, he started thinking, there's nothing wrong with what these children are describing. It's very stable account. The child is very balanced when telling it. It's super consistent. There are too many details that they confer with certain level of reality. So he decided that he would pursue some of those to see what was going to happen. And he had some amazing experience. He could analyze the story of children that were super remarkable. Dr. Stevenson was a pioneer in this study, or one of the pioneers, because the length that he went to be able to produce all of this data that he produced for us, it's amazing. If nowadays people find it strange when we talk about some experience such as sensing, for example, somebody who had passed away, or like having a feeling that we would leave our bodies and see some reality that is not physical. If people find this strange, you imagine for a medical doctor to come at the hospital, at the university, and say something like that. So he was very brave, but certainly he saw enough evidences to think, no, this is something that deserves to be studied. He had no connection at all with these studies, and he became more linked to this area when he started observing details such as these that I mentioned. Now, one of the cases that he followed was the case of a girl who would report a family she had back in India, and she would report with such richness of details that she would describe the name of her husband at the time. She would describe how she passed. She would tell him the name of the children. She would tell him how the street looked like. So it was so amazing to him, and he took note of every detail. And one day he decided to go from his own pocket, pay a trip, go to the place she was describing, the little city, and investigate himself. And that resulted in some amazing finding, because every single detail was there. But more, the people she was talking about, those who were her family in the past life, that she didn't say was a past life, she just said was a life, that was her. And then that is how all of this came to be. But the people she had described before, they were present, they were still in the physical dimension, they were still alive in the physical body. So they could check every single detail. Now, this report and case that he studied derivated into a movie, which I'm going to suggest to you. I'm going to put these details in the description so you can get it. But Jan Stevenson, I'm also going to put his name, and the name of the movie is MANIKA. MANIKA is the name of the girl. I do not know exactly how it was translated into English, but the title in Portuguese is The Girl Who Lived Twice. I'm going to show you here a little bit of this, because I have here a picture of Dr. Jan Stevenson. Let me show you. Here he is. I hope you can see Dr. Jan Stevenson there. And Dr. Stevenson is, therefore, somebody that I admire very much, and we all owe him a bit to help us understand. I have cases of many children. I have been doing a study on children who have sensitivity of this reality beyond this physical life. And I've seen cases of many children who report some context or experience that indicate that to be past lives. But among all of these studies, and I'm not going to discuss the findings of my study here, but you can find it in the internet if you look for it. But among these studies, one of the things that it's super interesting when we look at the statistics is that after a certain age, usually around 7 years of age, more or less, the kids that were describing having these recollections, they simply stop. And those who took note and who remember, they will find something about that perhaps at a later age when they are adults. But if you get the information from the kids when they are younger, like before 7, that is the ideal, because afterwards usually there is no recollection from the part of the child. But in this case here, the movie MANIKA, I have it here for you. You can see the cover of the movie, and the title here is in French, but at least with this cover, perhaps you can look for it. You can try and rent and watch it. It's worth it. It's a movie that was well produced for what it was, but the story, the evidences it brings, this is amazing, and it's worth knowing about it. So I hope you find it. I hope you find and you can enjoy. Now, this is just the part 1, and we do not want to make this talk too long. Therefore, we are here stopping for now. But we are going to have a second part, because there are many studies in different cases that have been further resolved and noted and examined after Dr. Jan Stevenson passed. And some are even much more amazing than MANIKA was. So I'm going to share some of those with you, talk to you about the most recent studies and evidences, but keep in mind, that is not a phenomenon or experience that is impossible for us to research. Here is one of the ways. Not so simple though, right? Because how do we know the person is not just imagining? But that's what we can know when we talk about children, because they report things that they had no way whatsoever of knowing. So that is important, right? So we pursue investigation of cases that we have stronger evidences that they may be real. So I would love to hear about your experiences. Have you ever had anything, or perhaps somebody in your family who had some sort of account that you believe could have been this type of experience? Please let me know, comment, give us a thumbs up if you like the video, and especially please tell us in the comments what you would like to hear for the future videos. We are here every Sunday, same time, in a live talk with you. So this is the moment for you to place your questions. This is a moment for you to comment and let us know what you would like to know. And I hope to see you here next Sunday. Okay? Thank you. And by the way, it's always 6 p.m. UK time, which is 10 a.m. Pacific time in United States. I hope this helps you to spot. And I see you then next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.